So from women on the football field to the running track. And one of the world's top female performers in track and field is Natasha Hastings. The 29-year-old New Yorker became an Olympic gold medalist at the 2008 Games in Beijing. And she's also a world, national, and collegiate champion. I sat down with Natasha to discuss her career and her impact on track and field. And she began by touching on how male athletes still seem to dominate the spotlight.
I mean, I do believe that track and field, does a fair enough job, but there is still some work. I mean, the male athlete is celebrated more than the woman.
Beyond the sponsorship, do you feel that male track athletes get more media coverage than women?
I think they do, and I think they do partially because of sort of the rivalries that they create with the male athletes. You don't really see too much of that on the women's side, unfortunately, which I think could make for the sport to be...
What do you mean by the rivalry?
The head-to-heads, they publicize more of those, particularly in the 100, the Usain Bolts and the Justin Gatlins going up against one another. And on the women's side, you don't really see them marketing it that way. So I'd say in that sense, they don't really market or portray us the same way.
Well, what do you think could be done to create more media attention for female track and field events and athletes?
I think, number one, seeing more rivalries would be good, seeing more head-to-heads and,
create more drama.
Well, I don't like the word drama, but excitement in terms of, the head-to-heads and who's going to be a good race and the ones to watch. And I also think we should find ways to make the female athlete a little bit more relatable as well. In talking to friends and family, a lot of times they say that it's hard to relate to the athlete. So I think, finding a way to make us more relatable to the public as well would be a good...
Well, the argument can be made that female athletes get paid less because their events generate less revenue, because less people are interested in watching them. What do you say to that? And what can be done to generate more interest?
As far as what can be, I totally agree that more needs to be done to draw more interest, because if you ask me, our races are just as exciting as the male races. So I'm not quite sure what needs to be done, but I think, if there's a way to do it for the man, there's definitely a way to do it for the woman. And as I said, I think we're just as exciting as the male.
Well, the thing with women is that women athletes are usually celebrated for their looks, for their appearance. You're a beautiful woman. You've gotten a lot of attention for that. You've been featured in a number of magazines. Cosmopolitan comes to mind, where the emphasis was really on your appearance. Do you feel that that is a help or a hindrance to your career?
I look at it both ways. For me, as well as being an athlete, being a woman is something that I celebrate. And so if I am able to, I feel like a lot of times as athletes, women are placed into this box. And, I like to celebrate that I'm still a woman and I'm still, sexy, if you will. But in terms of, being taken seriously, sometimes it does kind of run into an issue. So it does create, sort of where you have to draw that line.
Well, as a woman, you're also a role model to a lot of young girls. What is the message that you aim to impart?
Well, for me, I grew up running track. And so growing up, I was teased for my athletic build, if you will. And so I have noticed over the years that we lose a lot of female athletes through high school because of, that kind of thing. And so for me, I've always wanted to be a positive influence to young girls that, I'm just...
That an athletic build isn't considered feminine, isn't considered beautiful? Was that the issue?
Yes.
Misperception?
I've been called a boy, I've been called a box, I've been called many names for, having an athletic build. So I think, starting at an earlier age with girls and showing them that, this is beautiful, we're healthy, we're doing amazing things with our lives is something that is important to me.
So beyond that, that was obviously a challenge early on in your career. What would you say has been the biggest challenge so far?
The biggest challenge I think is always bouncing back. My career has definitely been been one that's been marked with ups and downs, and probably the biggest one was not making the 2012 Olympic team, and just having to pick myself up by the bootstraps, as they say, and just starting over and not giving up on my dream. And I mean, it happens all the time. So
You're, as we said, an Olympic gold medalist. Hopefully will be competing in the 2016 Brazil Games. What's the next step? How do you leverage that in terms of your career? What happens next?
well, I certainly hope on being an entrepreneur, beyond this. I'm 29, so I am definitely at the stage where I am thinking what's next. When I went to college, I wanted to actually be a chiropractor, so that's something that I'm exploring going into school whenever that retirement time comes. I haven't decided when, but so those are a couple of things that.
Well, what are the typical opportunities for retiring track and field female stars?
A lot of times you see us go into coaching. I certainly wouldn't mind coaching and bringing up younger athletes like myself, especially mentoring and public speaking and just kind of sharing our experience around the world.